We've successfully hooked Firebase up to our application. Let's move back to developing the interface for our app a bit more now. Looking at our application, we still have our console log statement in here, so let's just go ahead and remove that really quick. Okay, so this section is going to focus on building out a lot of the HTML of our application. So unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of just writing code, and a lot of it's going to be mostly boilerplate stuff, but let's go ahead and get down to it. Remembering back our mocks, we have some amount of content in the center of the screen with some big padding on the left and right. We're going to make use of Bootstrap's column systems to add a single column with a bunch of padding on either side to make our column appear to be centered. And we're going to place this this foundation HTML inside of our app component for right now. So let's get to writing. We'll make a div, the class name, row, panel default. Inside of that, we'll have div, class name, and then we're going to specify the column width. This is going to be our center panel right here, or our center div, our center column, and we're going to say that it's going to be 8 columns wide, and it will have a 2-column offset. And then we'll go ahead and place our H2 and center the text, and we'll say just to-do list. There we go. Okay, so this is going to make our top level div right here is going to make an overarching container for the rest of our application. Then we're going to have our center column, and then we'll have a header at the top of that column that says to-do list. Let's go ahead and save this. And all right, looks like a good start. Let's keep going. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our header for our application. And remember, the header is the location, is the spot that we're going to be able to add new to-dos to our application. We're not going to place any of that HTML inside of app.jsx, and instead we're going to make a new nested component called header.jsx. So inside of our source directory up here, we'll make a new file, and we'll call it header.jsx. We're going to put a little bit of boilerplate in here for right now and just get our HTML on the page, and then we'll go ahead and breathe some life into it in the next section. So we definitely know that we need React, so we'll require that in immediately. And then we'll do our very familiar now module.exports, React, create class, and we're just going to define our render function for right now. We'll have a wrapping div, and it's going to define an input group. Inside of it, we'll have an input of type text, the class name of form control, and I'm going to make this a single tag right here. So we'll delete the closing tag and then make this input self-closing. Next, we'll make a span, the class name of input group button, and then inside of here we'll get a button with the class name of button default. Its type will be a button, and this is just going to say add. Okay, so now we've thrown a whole bunch of boilerplate on here. We've got the outer wrapping div, which defines an input group. And what an input group is in Bootstrap is it says all the elements that are inside of me are going to function together. So we get an input, and then superimposed over the right-hand side of that input, we're going to add a button that just says add. So let's save this. And we're not going to get any update in our browser just yet because we still have to implement header inside of app.jsx. So let's flip back over to app.jsx, and we're going to require in our header. So we'll say var header require, and then this file is in the same directory. So we'll say in the same directory, look for header. Cool. And now we're just going to place our header in here. and we'll put it in just right underneath the top title of our application to-do list. So we can just say header. Great. And as we've witnessed many times before, all we're doing right here is we're saying render an instance of header inside of all this JSX right here, inside of this HTML. So our header component is going to render itself, and then we're going to expect to see all of its HTML show up right here. All right, so let's save this and see how our app updates. Cool, looks good. So we have our input right here. We can put some text into, and then we see our very nicely styled button over here that we can click right now, but nothing happens quite yet. So in the next section, we're going to wire this button up and make sure that whatever text is in the input gets added as a new to-do to Firebase.